I'm Michael Yan. I'm a war correspondent from the United States. My office is actually in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I've come to Hong Kong due to the growing insurgency here. And I've been here since late June 2019.
And you said you've been here since June, so you've been here for a long time. Why do you think Hong Kong is such an important place to be right now?
This is one of the most important things in the world right now, if not the most important politically. Hong Kong, to me, for people who've studied Poland much, know what I'm talking about. This is similar to Poland in the 80s. Hong Kong is a brain tumor on Xi right now. Also Taiwan, there's the problems in obviously Tibet, Xinjiang, other places with Falun Gong. There's many people that have issues with the CCP, whether it's stealing intellectual property, kidnapping people from Thailand, kidnapping people from the streets of Hong Kong, the booksellers on Causeway Bay as an example. So many people have issues, and so it's vital that we stand up to them as a team. There's no individual that's strong enough to do it, but as a team, CCP has no chance. How are the protests a thorn in Xi's side? Firstly, please keep them peaceful. Stop with the Molotov cocktails. Don't bring any explosives. It's very important to keep those peaceful. Remember, Poland in the 80s kept them mostly peaceful, relatively peaceful, and never gave an excuse for the Soviet army to roll in, and that's what we don't want to do here with the Red Army, right? It's a thorn in the side because, first of all, it undermines their credibility. It undermines, it gives, cowardice and courage both are catching. They're both infectious, right? And the Hong Kongers are showing a lot of courage. And this is infectious. People are seeing it in different parts of the world. Taiwanese people are also courageous people, but this is infecting them as well, even more. And that's a thorn in Xi's side. It's energizing a lot of Americans. Many Americans, you can see, are getting excited when they see the courage of the Hong Kong people. It's amazing.
And you've been at so many of these protests now. How many have you been at?
I've been in about 80 of the major protests, so about 80, not 18, and many other small ones that I don't count. For instance, last night I came in from the streets, and when did I leave Mongkok? Something like 3 in the morning or so. And I'll be out maybe again tonight, but certainly tomorrow. And so, yeah, I've been in so many protests, so I've seen the evolution from late June when I realized it was in general civil unrest. I came immediately. I got on an airplane, and then I've been here ever since, except for a couple of quick trips out. But since June, I've been here almost uninterrupted.
And could you talk a little about the energy that you've seen, or what your perspective on how the police are acting, and the protesters are being classified as rioters and violent, dissident young kids, just like enacting mayhem on the city. So kind of speaking from your firsthand experience. It's
not just young kids. It's all age groups. It's for instance, recently, what was this, about a month ago, I was in Taikou, and police threw one of the grenades, tear gas grenade with 23 submunitions on top of a crowd of a lot of elderly people, actually. And you can see it, they're in my video, and other people's video as well. So that's an area, as you know, where a lot of Koreans live. So they just angered all the Koreans. So now the Koreans are involved. They sprayed the mosque a couple of weeks ago with the blue chemicals, right, on Nathan Road, right? And so that angered the Muslims. And I've seen meanwhile, I've seen the Patriots out in front of the same mosque saying, hey, you're welcome here, you're welcome in Hong Kong. They were doing that 2 months ago or 3 months ago, right? And then the police a couple of weeks ago shoot the mosque with chemicals. So it's not just young people. It's Koreans, it's Americans, it's British, Aussies, it's young people, old people, rich people, poor people. You can't get that many people, 2 million people on the streets in a country of 7.5 million, unless you have a general cross-section of people, because there's no, airline pilots, even MTR people, it's just a cross-section of people are out on the streets.
And do you think the police do you think it's apt to be calling them like this a police state, or that police brutality is really happening?
Oh, clearly. And it's clearly become a low-level police state as well. For instance, when I was making videos Sunday night on Nathan Road by Argyle at that intersection by HSBC, right? There was a bus filled with people in the intersection and some cars, and the police threw tear gas grenades and shot tear gas grenades as well, and it gassed that bus, and it gassed people stuck in traffic. Who does something like that? I mean, they were not even protesters, right? And they last night, also in the same area, they were gassing down very narrow streets where people live in the apartment blocks and that sort of thing. And so they pull people off of buses, off of the MTRs, the trains, search them randomly, and stop cars, search randomly. So yeah, it's become a police state.
Mm-hmm. And you kind of talk about how this implicates even people in Thailand. You talk about the Causeway bookseller case. Why do you think this matters? Why do you think the communist and government and the information stuff and the censorship matters for Americans? Like, we've seen stuff for NBA, Blizzard, like
right.
companies. So how do you think about how it implicates Americans? Why does this matter to American people?
Actually, the NBA incident was like a gift from heaven, because it brought it to the forefront in the United States, where so many people saw that many American companies are kowtowing to communist China, and that includes Hollywood. And let's go back to the 30s. In the 1930s, Germany was the second biggest market for Hollywood movies in the world, right? Germany. And now, China is a huge market for Hollywood movies. So China, in the 1930s, Nazis, censors, lived in Hollywood. And so if something would not air in Berlin, if it wouldn't show in Berlin, they would not make the movie in many cases. That's why Charlie Chaplin rose to prominence, because he was independent. And so he was able to do movies on his own, and he would do the Hitler thing and really anger Hitler. But he had to do it independently, right? Like your organization. You had to do it alone. Because if you... The Hollywood ecosystem and a lot of the journalism ecosystem within the United States is tainted by the massive information operation coming from the Chinese Communist Party.
So this is something that matters to not just Hong Kong people, not just like neighboring Asian countries, but the Western world as well.
Absolutely. The long arm of Chinese money is it's global. I mean, it's down there in Australia. I've gone down there to study it. Japan, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia. All these countries I've gone to actually study this, and more. Myanmar, Thailand, United States, obviously, Japan, Taiwan. They're waging an information war that's been quite effective, actually. For instance, on a side note, the comfort women issue is a massive information operation run from China. It's not organic, actually, to Korea. A lot of the split between Korea and Japan right now looks like it's between Korea and Japan, but I've written about this for since 2014. It's actually orchestrated by CCP. Mm-hmm. The reason that Japan and Korea are having this big fight right now is because CCP is using a divide and conquer strategy, which that's their main strategy, is divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm. And could you explain the comfort woman thing?
Right. In World War II, you've probably heard of the comfort women issue. In Japanese, it's called ianfu, it was comfort women, right? And actually, they were mostly paid prostitutes. There were a few cases in Indonesia, for instance, where they were actually kidnapped. But I could talk about this for hours, actually. I've written 2 books about it. So this is a whole nother topic. But let's just encapsulate it by saying, well, right downtown here in the central area, there's 3 statues, actually. Where's that? It's near IFC, I think. Anyway, there's 3 comfort women statues, actually. Have you seen them on the sidewalk there? And I can take you out there and show them. And I've actually flown to Korea and met the statue makers. It's a man and wife team. They cost about $30,000 US per statue. And there's 3 of those actually in Hong Kong. And those statues are meant to evoke hatred against Japan, right? To try to isolate Japan. And so there's friction between Korea and Japan that's gone on for generations, right? We could go into that for hours. So China has used that organic friction to further divide them with the comfort women issue, right? It's been very effective. And so, again, that should be like a totally separate conversation sometime.
Yeah, and then quickly, what does that divide, how does that divide help China?
Oh, divide and conquer. For instance, trying to divide Philippines from the United States or Japan from Korea, because the alliance between Japan, Korea, and the United States is vital. It's very important for all three, right? And the weak link in that is the relationship between Korea and Japan, because there are natural fault lines that can be exploited, right? And so, and that's what CCP has done with the comfort women issue, is exploit this natural cultural fault line between Korea and Japan, and they've used as the wedge the comfort women issue. And you can't, every day there's articles about the comfort women issue. There's musicals about it, movies, documentaries, books that are funded by CCP. For instance, or aside from that, but related, for instance, The Rape of Nanjing by Iris Chong. I went to Nanjing researching this and went to the giant museum there. The thing must have cost $50 million. I don't think I'm exaggerating. It's an amazing, huge museum. It's like Disney World quality, right? And there's a statue of Iris Chong there in Nanjing. And if you research who was behind her in the United States, it was CCP. I've published this before. We could go on for hours about this, but she was a clear puppet for CCP, Iris Chong. She's dead now. She committed suicide. Unbelievable, the amount of tear gas that is used here. Like last night, I got gassed several times, so this is in the last, what time is it now? Within 12 hours from now, I've been tear gassed, right? Before, and I probably will be again tonight. Yeah, they're using it in these tight roads of Hong Kong where there's flats everywhere, apartments everywhere, children, elderly people, sick people. And like last night on my video and videos of others, you can see it on very tight streets, very concentrated tear gas, and it's wafting up to the into the windows or through any crevice that can get into the apartments. Huge amounts of tear gas. That's why I've started calling the police the fumigators. I mean, they're fumigating Hong Kong. And the effects, the long-term effects of this are not well understood. Nobody, to my knowledge, has ever tear gassed a city like this before. It's unbelievable amount of tear gas. And I'm sad to say that a lot of it comes from the United States, from Pennsylvania, actually. And I'm told now that they're using Chinese tear gas, which I haven't seen yet. I keep looking every time they fire, but last night it was American tear gas again. The pepper sprays from Switzerland, or at least one that I've seen. But the tear gas comes from a company in Pennsylvania, Non-Lethal Technologies is the name of the company. But yeah, so we don't even know what long-term effects this is going to have on people, including the police. I mean, they're tear gassing themselves as well. Sometimes they don't even check the wind and it comes right back on them, and when they don't even have their mask on at times. But what effect is this going to have on a 10-year-old kid? And often these photos are published in the newspapers, and you'll see some young child, maybe 10, and tear gas is very painful, and they don't know what's happening, right? Crying, and people will say, well, why do they bring their children to the riots? Well, first of all, they're not riots. And secondly, people live there. They live there. I mean, there's buses going by. Taxis get stuck in this. Children have to go to and from school. Tear gassing doesn't just happen at night. It happens at daytime. It happens day and night in neighborhoods. This is one of the most densely populated cities in the world. So you can't tear gas this place without hitting innocent people. Right, well, the Be Water Act, as it's being called in Hong Kong, right, is very important, and it's a big deal. That's why the CCP and the Hong Kong government really are upset about it, because it can have life-altering effects for the leadership. For instance, the police chiefs, the police, the government leaders who are sitting by and watching human rights violations unfold every day, 7 days a week, which many of us are capturing on video, as is your excellent group. Everybody's capturing this on so many people, and so these can be used in trials later or in different ways, and can be life-altering for some of the government officials in Hong Kong and the CCP.